I am now joined by a pair of former Sooners. In 1984, Oklahoma was led by quarterback Danny Bradley, just missing a national championship. He was the Big 8 Offensive Player of the Year and MVP in '84. Years later, his son Mark would also wear jersey number 1 like his father. The wide receiver played in back-to-back championship games, but like his father, couldn't get that championship ring. Mark would later go on to play pro right here in Kansas City. But one thing he and his father have is each other, and that was harder than racking up wins in Sooner country. You see, Danny didn't learn about Mark until about 3 years after he was born. And that roller coaster ride of a story, written by Mark, is now in a book called Inseparable.
Well, I think the person who made the way possible was my father. He's the one who made the story inseparable. You know, growing up, it was a tough deal, but my father, through his faith, his love, and his kindness over 20 plus years, is the one who made it possible for us to have this relationship, and also for me to, you know, start to build that relationship with my mother that I never had in the beginning. So I'm just thankful to the fact that he was consistent in that, and just grateful for the fact that he's reconciled my family together, and it was a great process.
And for you, Danny, you refused to be denied. You found out about Mark when I guess he was like 3 or 4 years old, maybe, that early in life for him.
Right.
Good things, great things were happening for you. You know, you're leaving OU, you're playing in the NFL, you're about to get married, then boom, this bombshell falls in your lap. And then a self-inflicted gunshot wound kicks in for the youngster.
Right.
You pick it up from there.
Well, at the time for me, MC, I was in my second year with the Rams at that time, and I had received a phone call from my mother. The accusation first came during the Orange Bowl, the '85 Orange Bowl game. And for me, it was just an accusation. I had always had a tremendous amount of respect for the young lady who is his mother. And but the allegation was just that. It was just an allegation. I got married just months after that. Was drafted just a few months after that. And my second year with the Rams, after we've done a little bit of PIing to try to discover if these things were true, we discovered that this kid had a dad. He was named after another man, and she wasn't as forthright as we'd had hoped she'd be. So my wife and I and my family just kind of chalked it up as, as someone that was just trying to piggyback off of the success. But my second year with the Rams in training camp, my mom called and said, "Hey, are you sure that this kid is not your son? Are you sure in your heart?" Because a couple of weeks ago, we just got word that he had a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and we've heard a lot of rumors about it.
Right.
And
this is in Pine Bluff.
This was in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and I was in LA at the time during training camp, and that just kind of startled me, and I just hopped on a plane. I thought that this is the time to perhaps really dig into this thing just a little bit deeper. I come from a domestic violent home, so I was driven by this idea to be the father, the dad that I never had. And I rushed to Little Rock, drove into Pine Bluff, just hoping she would submit to a paternity test, and lo and behold, she did. I was thrilled about that, and just weeks later, we got the results back, and the kid was indeed my son. And you don't know these things out the gate, but that was the beginning of a 25-year struggle just to have access to this kid. And a lot had went on during that period of time. I lost my wife in terms of, not in terms of death, but we got divorced.
But she felt like you deceived her.
She felt like I deceived her, like I had known all along. And it just, bless her heart, it just took, everything that I had to convince her that that wasn't the case. And but she just couldn't deal with the idea of a new kid being on the block, and one that was already 5-6 years old at the time, and so she opted out, and I was shipped off. I got released from the Rams. Detroit signed me.
Partly because you were dealing with this.
Yeah, part of it. I had so many struggles. They finally, John Robinson called me in and said, who was the head coach at the time, and said, "Hey, we understand that you got some issues going on, and you kind of haven't been the player that we drafted, and we want to give you some time to go handle these things." And I think it's the time to do that. And man, it was a blessing in disguise for me, because I was stressed out.
But you didn't see it that way at the time, did you?
No, at that time I didn't see it that way. I'd missed for a week during training camp. I didn't eat, wasn't drinking much water, and wasn't sleeping. And it just started to show. Back then, you know, you had true two-a-days, so with no time limits.
I mean, I'll bring this up with Mark. All your life, you had heard nothing but negativity about your father, and your mother appeared not to want you to be a part of his life, seemingly on the surface, when deep inside she did. When you decided to write this book, did you have to get Dad's blessing first?
Most definitely. Like I said, we were talking earlier that my father's always been great at reuniting families back together again, I'm sorry. And for me, I simply had to get his blessing to be able to do it, because we're sharing and talking about some things that none of us are happy about. One, he talks about some of his imperfections as a father that hindered the work to be a father, and so it was a task to tackle, but with his blessings, we were able to get the job done.
Before we wrap things up, we want to mention the fact that Hollywood is knocking on the door. Perhaps they've read this book, they love this book. Are you optimistic?
You know, we're pretty excited about that part of it, MC. We started out with hopes of this being a film project. I had met John Travolta at an impromptu type meeting at the Four Seasons in Dallas, and he just kind of happened to see a screenplay that I had been working on. And he just kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, "That looks like something from my industry. Who are you? What do you do?" And we chatted a little bit about it, and he the one that's talked us into the whole idea of writing the book. And Mark had already had been in my ear about sharing his story.
Sure.
And we just thought maybe the film was probably the best way of going about that.
Before I let you guys go, Mark, what the folks know, you are the Mark Bradley that spent some time here in Kansas City in the Chiefs uniform. What are you doing now? Are you trying to get back into the league?
I've been contemplating coming back, but I'm enjoying the book project of Inseparable, and hopefully if I get a right opportunity to come back, Kansas City is always second home to Texas, and it's just getting the right opportunity in the right situation, I might consider it. So.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
The book is called Inseparable. It's a great read. It's about a father's determination to be the father of a son he didn't know he had, but he wanted to take responsibility. We'll be back in just a moment.
This is Off the Bench with sports director Michael Coleman.